right here is one of the many new beginnings for Oppo, and it's the all-new Reno 12 Pro. This is the first ever AI branded phone for Oppo, and we'll definitely be seeing more phones similar to this pop up later this year into early next year. And while this isn't my full review, I've been able to play with the phone for the last 48 hours, and I wanted to give you guys a glimpse of what the Reno 12 Pro is all about. Now, just like any other smartphone video on this channel, let's quickly talk about its specs. The Reno 12 Pro that I'm reviewing has 12 gigs of RAM and 512 gigs of storage, which is a top tier spec for the Oppo Reno 12 Pro. The processor inside is the newly released MediaTek Dimensity 7300 Energy, which is an Oppo MediaTek collaboration. And this is supposed to be super efficient battery-wise while still offering decent performance, but we'll touch on that later in the video. Besides that though, this also packs a massive 5000 mAh battery, so it's right up there with some flagship phones. And this can fast charge up to 80 watts wired, which can get you up to 100% in under an hour, given that you're using a charger that can output 80 watts of power. Now, talking about the design first and in-hand feel real quick, it's a really nice looking phone. I have the Nebula Silver right here, which is kind of like this purpley silver color, but it also comes in two other colors, Space Brown and Sunset Gold. And I will say, I love the texture or design on the back here. It makes it look pretty special. And the camera module, while it's pretty basic, it does house a triple camera setup, which we'll dive deeper into in just a few minutes. Now, when it comes to in-hand feel, it has this nice subtle curve on the back of the phone, and the actual display, while curved as well, the side frames are flat. So you kind of get the best of both worlds while having a slightly curved display with flat sides. And I think this phone is very comfortable to hold. And speaking of the display, this can top out at 1200 nits peak with a max brightness of 600 nits sustained. And honestly, for a mid-range device, this isn't bad, but it's also not the best I've seen on a device at this price range. It's a 120 Hz panel, it's AMOLED, and the bezels all around the display are quite thin, so it's not a bad looking phone at all. Now, when it comes to performance, and from what I've been able to test the past 48 hours, this is using the new MediaTek Dimensity 7300 Energy, and if you want the best performance out of this phone, you'll have to turn on high performance mode in the settings to get a higher score in benchmarks and a few extra frames when gaming and doing normal everyday tasks. Now, without this turned on, I feel like performance is kind of throttled in return for, some battery life. So if you think this phone out of the box is performing quite a bit slow, definitely turn on this feature. In Geekbench, here's what I'm getting, and I'm not sure what's going on with this MediaTek chip inside this phone, but even in high performance mode, these scores shouldn't be that low, but we can't really base everything off of Geekbench scores, so how does it handle gaming and day-to-day usage? Now, in Genshin Impact, I'm getting a comfortable 45 frames per second in low to medium settings with little to no stutters during a 30-minute gameplay session. In Diablo Immortal, I'm actually shocked it's limiting the frame rate to just 30 frames, even though I have the phone set to high performance mode. Why? I'm not really sure why. But in Asphalt 9, it had no problems running at 60 frames per second. And yeah, I think performance-wise, it's not bad, but like I said earlier, it's not the best that I've experienced on a mid-range device. Also, I feel like I gotta mention this in this video too. The haptics on here are just not very good. It feels very cheap and kind of reminds me of an older Android smartphone from like 2012. So if you care about haptics and how it feels when you're typing or when you're gaming, you're not gonna like the haptics on here. As far as battery life goes, 48 hours is a little bit too soon to tell whether or not this can last a good while, but from what I experienced, I unplugged this phone at 9 a.m. this morning and it's currently 4 p.m. while we're filming this, and it's at 60%, so still on track to last till bedtime. But if you're a heavy user, you're definitely gonna have to charge this around the evening if you want to keep using the phone throughout the night. And then we have this software. This Reno 12 Pro out of the box is running ColorOS 14.1, and I was able to test out some of the new AI features that this phone packs, and to my surprise, it works really well. Although you do still need to be connected, to the internet for things to process, so no on-device AI stuff for now, but hopefully we'll see that in future Oppo flagship devices. Now, I was only able to test out a few AI features on this phone just because some of the generative AI ones won't be available till later this year, but from what I've been able to experience, like AI Eraser 2.0, which is basically just Magic Eraser from Google, it works really well. Plus, it has this pretty awesome animation when it's deleting things from your photos. And then there's the AI Toolbox, which is supported by Google Gemini, which can help you write captions and even summarize a web page for you since it's contextually aware of what you're looking at on screen. And then in the voice recorder app, there's this AI recording summary feature where if you're recording a meeting or yourself using the voice recorder app, AI can help summarize your recording based on Google's Gemini, which is pretty sweet. Overall, I think having all these AI features is nice, but I would have loved to see on-device AI versus doing everything online, especially when it comes to that AI Eraser 2.0. All right, now let's quickly talk about its cameras. So the Reno 12 Pro is rocking a triple camera setup, a 50 megapixel main and 2x telecamera, and an 8 megapixel ultra wide camera. Now up front, actually, this is using the same 50 megapixel camera as the 2x portrait lens on the back, so selfies should look really good too. Now, I haven't had much time with this phone like I keep mentioning, but I did take this phone with me to New York and captured a few photos here and there, and to my surprise, I really love how these photos came out. I think for a mid-range device, this has to have one of the best cameras in the game. If Pixel devices aren't available in your area, but the Reno is, this is definitely one of those phones that takes really good photos. I love using the 2x portrait lens on here just because it makes everything look really good, even without portrait mode enabled. The ultra wide lens I think is okay and definitely not the best that I've seen. And the main wide camera is for sure one of the better main wide cameras that I've used in this price range, giving us really balanced colors that aren't too saturated and shots don't look over sharpened. In terms of video, it's quite limited, especially if you want to record in 4K. You're limited to just 4K 30 using the main wide lens as well as the 2x lens. If you want to record videos using the ultra wide, you'll have to shoot in 1080p 30. Quality-wise, it's decent and not as impressive as what I've been able to capture on the photo side of things. And yeah, that's been the Oppo Reno 12 Pro in a nutshell. It's a mid-range device that has really good cameras for photos, it can perform just as well as other phones in its category, and now has AI. But for a phone that has a starting price of 599 euros or roughly around $600, it's definitely a tough pill to swallow for some folks, especially with the chipset that it's using. It's not the fastest chipset out there, but if you want the first AI phone from Oppo, the Reno 12 Pro is not a bad choice at all. It's got a 5,000 milliamp hour battery that can last pretty much all day and fast charge up to 80 watts. It has really good cameras for photos, especially for a mid-range device. And I think from a design standpoint, it's a really nice looking phone too. Now, if your carriers or local retailers have deals that can bump down the price a few hundred euros, then I think that'll be worth it. But for its actual retail price, it might be best to look at other phones in the market that fits your budget. I think my favorite mid-range device would be the newest Poco F6 Pro. If you guys want a video on that, let me know in the comments down below. And if you guys did enjoy this video, make sure to hit that subscribe button. And yeah, I'll see you all in the next one.